Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Anthony from Texas Blues Alley. It's a beautiful day, beautiful spring, nice and chilly the way I like it out here on Blues Mountain. I brought my camera outside for a little heart-to-heart talk. I guess we'll call this Motivation Monday. I want to talk about practice. As you know, I run a guitar lesson business, and I have people that pay a monthly membership to access my courses. So it's in my best interest that they practice as much as possible. This actually kind of applies to a lot of areas in life. And so I ask you, if you enjoy this video, pass it around. Whenever you see somebody who's in a hobby or some kind of discipline that requires practice and they're struggling with motivation, and I'll make you this commitment: if this video hits 1 million views inside of a year, I'll put one of my best courses online for free. That's not really a generous promise because none of my videos hit 1 million views in a year. So chances of that happening are slim, but I want you to know that I'm serious, so I'm making you that promise. So let's talk about this idea of you don't have to practice. I'm going to go through a couple different phases of this video, and the first one is knowing what kind of a person you are. I'm a fan of mixed martial arts, and I watch a lot of it, and that culture is filled with alpha male bro types. Being a fan of that brings you in contact with a lot of different types of personalities. And one of the guys that I came across is a guy named David Goggins. And David is a ridiculous physical specimen who has run races over 100 miles. And his whole motto is stay hard. He has an incredible story and has achieved incredible things, overcome great odds. Maybe one of the most physically active people I've ever seen. His whole approach is based on conquering your mind. He has this phrase that he talks about taking souls, being so undeniable at what you do that it sucks the life out of somebody who's rooting against you. And so he ends all of his videos with stay hard. And if you look at the comments on his Instagram videos, everyone, he reaches people who need that, and they're all like, stay hard, stay hard. And I share that with you because we tend to sometimes have that kind of approach in guitar when it comes to practicing. You have to practice. You have to practice. Be disciplined. You have to practice. And I'm here to tell you that approach is necessary for some people, and it is what works. But I can tell you there's not a single thing that David Goggins has ever said or done in any of his videos that inspired me to go out and do anything. Doesn't inspire me to exercise. It doesn't inspire me to eat better. It doesn't inspire me to... It's like it bounces off and it has no effect at all. And that's not because what he's offering is BS or anything like that. It obviously works for some people. David Goggins and that brand of motivation, which a lot of things in the fitness and weightlifting and bodybuilding, they cater to that, what I'm going to kind of call a warrior archetype, which is somebody who relishes adversity and the opportunity to overcome it. Think about, what do you know about someone who goes into the Army? You have a drill sergeant. A drill sergeant is an archetype, somebody who's hard on you and tells you that you're nothing, and then you overcome it and become something. The kind of advice that David Goggins gives his persona, which I believe to be authentic, and the people in that vein, they work very well at motivating people who have that kind of warrior disposition. But it doesn't work for everybody. And what I've come to accept about myself, and maybe what some of you need to accept about yourself, is that you're not a warrior, and you don't have to be. You don't, you listen to people who take guitar very seriously, and they tell you have to practice. Don't complain if you don't practice, and if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get any results, and you got to work. And you wonder why it doesn't work. It's because you're not a warrior, and you don't respond to that kind of stuff. Forget have to. You don't have to practice. There are no rules. You could stop practicing right now, and as long as you just played when it felt comfortable to you, you'd probably stay at the same skill that you're at, and you'd enjoy it for the rest of your life. You don't have to practice. We're not in the Army, and I'm not your drill sergeant for guitar. You don't have to practice. We talked about the warrior archetype. It's not me. Maybe it's not you. I don't respond well to people telling me I have to do something. That sort of motivation just doesn't, it bounces off of me. It doesn't result in a swell of adrenaline or anything like that, but I'll tell you what does get me going is the opportunity to do something big. The opportunity to do something great. Man, that just resonates with me at my core. And so I want to present a different archetype, and that is the archetype of the explorer. Some of you, like me, will never be motivated by somebody being hard on you, by telling you that you're weak, by telling you that you've got to prove them wrong. Some of you will never be motivated by that because you're just not wired that way, but you will be motivated by the opportunity to participate in something awesome, the opportunity to explore. You think about the great explorers. Part of what draws people to, when I was a kid, I was always thinking about hidden treasure. This is how I should have known. When I was a kid, I was always wondering, I wonder if somebody who used to live in this house hid something under the floor. Maybe there's a box of gold bars or gold coins or something. And I've always been drawn to the idea of searching for something, going out and finding it. And I've come to realize that I'm an explorer. And some of you might also have that personality, the personality of an explorer wanting to go out and get something. And what I'm trying to get across to you in this video is that your progression at guitar, if that happens to be you, or whatever discipline you're in that you've been struggling to participate in to get better, your growth might depend on you looking at yourself less as a warrior and more as an explorer. A warrior has to do something. An explorer gets to do something. Some of you have been looking at guitar as an adversary for so long that you've started to take for granted the age that we live in. There's a book called Becoming Your Future Self Now, or something like that, by Benjamin Hardy. Probably the most impactful thing in the book, he said, came near the end, where he said, live your life as if this is your second chance and you have another chance to get it right. And he talks about how if he comes home from the office and he's kind of dreading the energy that comes with walking in the door to a bunch of kids, one of the things that he thinks about is, if I were old and my kids were grown and I barely saw them because they're out living their own lives, what would I give for the chance to walk through this door one more time and hear their little voices and experience their laughter and all that kind of stuff? So he said, I pause before I go through the door and I put myself in the frame of mind of somebody who never gets to experience this. And I think about what it would mean to go back and walk through this door again one more time. And then I take that person's mentality as I walk through the door. Live this moment as if you missed the chance the first time and now you have a chance to get it right. And so how does that apply to guitar? I want you to imagine what would happen if you stopped practicing, because you don't have to practice. You can stop. You'd get to the end of your life. At some point, you'd probably lose the use of your hands. Let's say, like Dr. Strange, you lost your delicate use of your fingers in an accident or something like that. And every day your guitar was just sitting there and you could not play it. And you could pick it up, but you couldn't form things right. I actually gave a lesson to a guy years ago who had such bad arthritis in his hands, he could not form certain chords. I want you to think about your hands, and I want you to think about what would happen if they were taken from you and you couldn't play guitar. But then somebody told you, we're going to go back to whatever age you're at now, and we're going to start over again, and you have your hands back. All of a sudden, the idea of have to practice sounds silly. You get to practice. And so the secret to reframing things through this lens is to kind of imagine what your life would become if what you have now was taken away. If you lost what you have now, if you lost the ability to use your hands, if you lost the finances to be able to afford any kind of lessons or courses. I'm not saying to dwell on how hard other people have it, but the fact of the matter is, if you're watching this video, which means you have access to the internet, probably on a device that you own, there's somebody who would trade places with you like that. Somebody in this world would trade places with you to have access to what you have now. If you've looked at guitar as kind of an adversary or looked at practice as an adversary, it's partly because you've been listening to the voices that motivate warriors and not the kind of call of the wild that appeals to explorers. And when you think about that course that you're working on, or you think about that membership that you joined, for me, I'll say this applies to exercise. When I think about going and doing a workout, as long as you think of it as something, I have to do this, I have to do this. If I don't do this, I'm weak. And you imagine somebody being that drill sergeant to you, you have to accept that you're never going to respond to that. But instead, think about the person who can't, even if they wanted to. You can experience this every day. It just is a matter of reframing how you look at the thing that you're avoiding. It's not something you have to do because, I'm not your boss. Guitar isn't a job for you, probably. But somebody somewhere has less time. Somebody somewhere has worse equipment. Somebody somewhere doesn't have internet access. Somebody somewhere doesn't have a computer. They don't have a phone. And to be able to sit down and go on something like YouTube, like if you never paid for my lessons and never paid for anybody's courses ever again, there's never been a better time to be alive as a guitar player. You have at your fingertips with you 24. If you have a smartphone with a data plan, you have access to the largest amount of high quality instruction for guitar or anything else that any person in all of human history has ever had. And you're struggling, I have to practice. We take for granted what we have. We take for granted the fact that we can study. You can study even without paying for anything. Just going on YouTube, you can take a lesson on just about any style of music that you want. In the days of YouTube teachers, they're terrible. That might have been true 15 years ago. That's not the case anymore. I sometimes laugh when I see people who are talking about, you're going to learn on YouTube. Just stop. There's so much high quality free stuff on YouTube. It's ridiculous. And I think it would do you well to kind of take a step back, think of that kid in the 70s having to learn from a record player, or those of us who grew up on dial-up internet who could barely get, there was no YouTube, there was no lessons. You had to order something out of a catalog, a VHS tape or something. The fact that you can go online and loop something and slow it down, are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. I don't want to keep rambling and I don't want to take up more of your time than I have to, but I sincerely want to encourage you. If you're struggling with motivation, first of all, figure out what kind of person you are. If you're not a warrior, stop talking to yourself like you are. You're never going to be motivated by being hard on yourself. If you're an explorer like me, you got to find a way to reframe how you think about guitar and make it a quest instead of a discipline. Stop thinking of it as something you have to do and something that you get to do. And the way that you reframe that is by imagining that you lost everything that you have now that you've gotten used to. Every resource, finances, health, mobility. Imagine the day when you lost all of that. And this is your chance to do it again for the second time. You've been given a second chance to play your guitar and to study at a buffet of the largest collection of instructional material in all of human history. And just don't even pick up your guitar yet. Just sit with that. Think about yourself right now, where you're at, wherever you live. There's people watching this video who have way more than some other people. But like I said, if you're watching this video, which means you have access to the internet and you have a computer and you have a phone and you have a guitar with all 6 strings and you have something to plug it into, just sit with that privilege for a little bit. Yes, I'm going to call it privilege. If you have access to the internet and you have a guitar with all 6 strings and you've got some kind of thing to plug it into, you have a privilege of having all this stuff that a lot of people don't have. And you have an opportunity to improve yourself and enjoy the process along the way. And don't let the comparison to other people rob you of that. Doesn't matter how good someone else is. Doesn't matter how much attention they get. They're not you. And that praise wouldn't change who you are. You wouldn't be any more special than you are right now if you did get that same kind of praise. But what is unique to you is the journey that you're on, the journey that you get to participate in, the quest that you get to seek out with guitar. So like I said in the beginning, you don't have to practice, but you get to practice. And you get to practice at a point in history with resources that some people around the world could only dream of, and anybody throughout history who has had to learn with less would be envious of. And I think the secret to you becoming the guitar player that you want is less have to and more get to. So have a great Monday. Thanks for watching.